go for it?
Yeah, why not? Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Today's talk is going to be about the evolution of the human body in the digital age. So before I get started, I'll just introduce who I am. So my name is Alison Grieve. I'm founder of G-Hold, and I've spent over a decade now researching the science of holding. Initially, I came up with the idea for a food service tray that didn't topple over, and so the primary purpose of that invention was to prevent accidents from happening. But through that process, I learned a lot about the musculoskeletal health of human beings and how they hold things, and went on to develop G-Hold tablet holders for iPads and other mobile devices. But more recently, I've been thinking more kind of philosophically around the human body in an era where we're sat in a stationary position. Because actually, despite the fact that technology has evolved incredibly and developed incredibly, particularly over the past 2 decades, the human body has remained the same for millennia. We have the same carpal tunnel running through our wrist, we have the same spines, we have the same eyesight, but the human body is really designed to hunt and to scavenge and to make, create and to move. And movement is incredibly important for the human body. When I think back to when I first had my first job in an office, I was really struck by scores of people sitting under unnatural lighting in a stationary position, not moving and not communicating directly, just staring into these box screens, which seemed to me to be completely unnatural and not something I'd ever thought of before. And even to this day, human beings are primarily sitting when they're working in a stationary position and not moving. So I thought back to how desks once upon a time were designed when, of course, we transitioned from being hunters and gatherers into having more in a knowledge age where we needed to take our knowledge and our work from books. And looking back to the Middle Ages, even in the Middle Ages, our desks were actually designed to be more healthy for the body than they are today. Scribes would sit on sloped desks that allowed their posture to be upright and allowed them to take reference from other books in a standing position. So this image on the left is actually of a scribe using his book to take notes on the book above him that he would stand up to. So basically it was like an early sit-stand desk. And if we look at the image on the right, that was actually perhaps our first version of scrolling through different screens, because it was a wheel machine for reading books where the man or woman would actually physically move the wheel in order to reference books. Over lockdown, I decided, I don't know if this is going to be a moving screen, let's see. There we go. I thought a lot more about the human body, and as we took control of our own environments, when we were locked down and really not moving to different environments, not commuting or changing our environments, I thought to really take control of my own working environment and developed a working from home kit that would allow me to move my screens to an appropriate height. And I thought a lot about how much that kind of empowered my situation. Can I ask how many here of you today worked primarily on laptops through the past 2 years? And did you feel any negative impact on your back over the past 2 years? Yeah, it's not surprising, because actually laptops were designed to work on our laps in a kind of temporary situation when we were traveling. They weren't designed to be the primary work device. So mobile technology really allows us in many respects to be the humans that we're supposed to be, that allows us to move. The only kind of remaining issue with mobile technology is that, certainly when I first bought an iPad, I thought this is incredibly awkward to hold. Is it a giant phone? Is it a laptop without a keyboard, in which case how can I really interact with it in the same way as a PC? And so that's what really drew me to focus on the hand and wrist. Because your hands are amazing. They have more bones than any other part of the human body. One finger can save a rock climber from falling from their death. They enable surgeons to complete intricate life-saving miracles. They bring us music. They talk for us. They see for us. They protect us from the moment that we're born. Yet do we do enough to protect our hands? Hands are key to our evolving relationship with technology. They're the physical interface between us and the digital world. They endure a lot. The gripping and the typing and the scrolling movements on our phones and our devices place our hands and wrists in unnatural positions. And repetition can lead to swollen tendons, which places pressure on the median nerve, and it can lead to carpal tunnel syndrome. So every inch of our products are being crafted with the health of your hands taking center stage. And after a decade of scientific research, we're here to take care of your hands so that you can take care of the things that matter most. And what matters most to me in this digital age is to get human beings moving, because it's a much more natural way of being. So I'm going to do a little exercise with you. If you would like to feel more powerful, and evolve slightly from feeling not very powerful into feeling much more powerful, I'm going to ask you all to lean forward in your chairs, maybe even put your elbows on your knees and look at the floor and say after 3 in a voice that feels natural to you, looking at the floor, I am powerful. 3, 2, 1.
I am powerful.
Did anyone actually say I am powerful? So, I'm going to do a little experiment to see if this makes a difference. After 3, I'm going to count you down again. I'm going to have you all stand up and stretch out. And as you stand up, I want you to say, in a voice that feels natural, I am powerful. 3, 2, 1. I am powerful. Now, did that feel slightly different to you from sitting and looking at the floor? Part of the reason for that is that your organs are actually constricted when you're hunched over. And you're doing that when you're working on a laptop. It's not just a question of your back and spine, it's a question of your whole body's health, because your heart is constricted, your lungs are constricted, and you're not going to physically feel powerful when you're sitting hunched over. So by standing up, moving around, that's a much more natural, more powerful way to interact with our bodies. So finally, because this is about digital DNA, and certainly I've gone through this with my own team, and I see it all the time in education, that you can hand out iPads and mobile technology to people, but what's really important is to understand not just the why you might use mobile technology, but also the how. Because when I was first faced with an iPad, I didn't know where the start screen was, I didn't know where my files were going to be kept, nothing made sense. I didn't have an iPhone, so I didn't even know how to copy and paste and just work. I didn't know how to work on an iPad. And I spent quite a lot of years having worked internationally and needing to use my iPad as my primary device, learning how to make that transition into using the software. So we have a blog post recently up on our website called How to Run Your Business on the iPad, and it really covers a lot of those pain points and how you transition into cloud-based working and how to operate your workflow while still being compatible with a lot of colleagues and associates who might still be completely on PCs. So that is how you can be much more human in your working life by utilising mobile technology. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have now on this talk. Yeah, so the question was around how our business changed through the pandemic and how with the transition to working from home. I think that one thing that we've really taken from, because our business did have manufacturing, so we had physical people in a workspace, but all of our kind of operations happened from at home. And because we were already set up, because of the amount that we travelled and because we'd engaged with the iPad as our primary way of working, it meant we were instantly able to transform to working from home. And the same can be said for education. There was a council, the Borders region, Scottish Borders, had just handed out iPads before the pandemic hit, and all of their kids were at home with one-to-one devices, and immediately they were into learning and communicating and collaborating, and it wasn't a big fright to them because they were already set up to do so. So I think that given this move into hybrid working is very relevant, that we need to utilise tools that enable us to work in lots of different environments, and it can enrich us rather than overwhelm us. Okay, well, thank you very much. I hope that you feel just a fraction bit more powerful, and maybe that you might look into a little bit more of mobile technology as a bigger way of working as we move forward. Thank you very much.